Hey all my fellow maniacs and soon to be maniacs. In this video, we will be looking at my unique Webtoon canvas process, and I believe it's unique because I feel like I'm the only one making webcomics in this way. Hi there to those of you who are new to the channel. I am the Chainsaw Maniac, your favorite webcomic maker, animator, inspirator, and motivator, here to help you on your creative journey. So as I said, today we're going to be looking at my Webtoon creation process, and it's quite unique because in my process, I only use Blender. At least I've challenged myself to only use Blender for this upcoming webcomic project, The City of Clones, which is my latest webcomic coming out soon. I believe it's coming out at the beginning of December or beginning of January, depending on how quickly I can finish things up, because it is a short story, so it's not going to really take that long for me to actually plan things out and get through it, you know. So first of all, we're going to look at how I actually go about setting up a scene, because in Blender, you know, you don't just hop into things and, you know, get right into it. If you enjoy this content and want more, don't forget to slap that subscribe and like button and hit that notification bell if you want to be notified for more. There's plenty of ways to kind of set up your scene, because all the default settings aren't really the default settings you want, so you kind of have to set it up. Now obviously I've already gone ahead and actually made my own default scene for my webcomic process, so I'm gonna just hop into my webcomic template that I created for myself. And I have two templates, which is the single page template, which is just framed by the single page format, which is on a resolution of 800 by 1280, which is the standard usually phone scrolling format. And yeah, it's pretty much set up already, and in the future these scene templates will be available to you guys if you guys want to use it, but right now it's still in the kind of beta process of me actually setting it up for you guys. Eventually you'll be able to download it yourself and actually work on something. As you can see, I have the scene open here up in front of me. I've set everything up so you can just go ahead and draw. You don't really need to set everything up. I want you to take note of certain elements in here if you plan on doing this process, or at least I want to show you exactly how I've set it up so that it's more optimized and actually ready to use. What I've done is actually, yeah, you can see the stroke options here on Blender. I know it's quite intimidating, the interface of Blender, but trust me, once you get the hang of it, it's not really that scary of a thing. But I know once you start up Blender, it's kind of like entering the gates of hell. You're not really sure why you're here and what's going on, but you're here and you're ready to walk through it. You know, due to my years of experience working in Blender as an animator, I kind of have a hang of all the tools and things. Currently Blender has had a major update in the last few years, but obviously now for the 2D setup, everything is in a different place. There's new tools, there's new things you can use. Here you can see I've already set up everything that is needed for the scene. This is the single page setup, like I said. I also have another scene set up over here, and I'm just gonna open it. So this is a multi-page scene setup that I have over here, and as you can see, it's a long scrolling format like you would normally have in Clip Studio Paint or Krita or whatever software you're using, you know. Unfortunately, Blender, the height of the actual length of your canvas can only go up to 32,000 pixels down, so you can't really go as far as you want. It only seems to render out in 32,000 pixels in height, but so I kind of compensated for that, so I'm only using up to 32,000 pixels in height. Depending on how much pages I plan on using for my episode, I will kind of have to break it up for myself. As you can see here on the outliner here on the side here, we have our camera, and if I pop out of here, you can see it's in 3D. Now I would not recommend just actually going in here and drawing whatever you want, you know, just drawing on the canvas like a crazy person, because now you would expect that's the thing to do, you know. But if you just want to draw, this is definitely the right setup for you. You don't really have to do much. It's already, everything's already set up. You have your layers here, and you can access your layers here on the side panel as well, here under this squiggly line thing. I don't know what you call that tab, but or you can right click and it will show you your active layers, and you can actually create layers from this little menu over here. You can even change the radius and strength of your brush. You can change your materials, but you actually have to set up your materials, so you actually have to set up your strokes here, what kind of strokes you would want. I'm not sure if I should go into that right now. These things we'll definitely go into later once you actually set up everything. Let's say you have no materials here on the side and you kind of want to go ahead and add a material. You can also use the vertex shading options, which is kind of this thing over here. I don't really know how the vertex shading works. I usually normally use materials because it seems like the most simplest thing to use. strokes, I usually just go into material and I change my stroke color here. But maybe in the future, I will do a video series of tutorials on this process, and you guys can actually go through it with me, and you know, you can ask a bunch of questions. I feel like that will be more beneficial for you learning and stuff like that. Or I might do a live stream in the future where you guys can actually hang out with me and we can actually go through the process myself. Right now, I'm just trying to show you exactly how I do things. So this is just basically the rough setup of what I actually do. Obviously, it's not as long as I'm making it look. You know, Blender's kind of like my house. I just walk in, I grab a soda, I grab a few meals if I want a few meals. I know where the microwave is, I know where the fridge is. It just feels like my home, you know. I just kind of walk in and I know how things work. I know where things are. It might be completely different to you guys. You might look at this and be like, okay, how do you work in this condition? What is going on? Don't worry, guys. Don't worry. It's as much easier than it looks. But yeah, I mean, you can just go in here and do your sketches. You know, you want to draw whatever you want to draw. Here's the panel. You know, there's a guy. He's doing something there. You know, there he is. You know, you can just go in here and do whatever you want. You know, but this is for just you guys who just draw and you don't really use the 3D elements of Blender. You just kind of want to go in here and draw. And Blender has some awesome 2D tools as well. I will definitely do all the work for you guys. You don't have to really set this up like I've set it up. Definitely in the future, I'll create a downloadable folder for you guys, so you guys don't actually have to create a template for yourselves. You will have your own little template that you can use, provided by myself. And you know, you can kind of do whatever you want in it. And in the future, I'll definitely do a video series on it and how you actually use the elements within Blender to do your webcomics and how to go about doing it. But for now, I'm just taking you through my process and how I do things and how I go about doing things. I'm gonna open up an example of what I've actually done. Yeah, you can kind of see this is the City of Clones project that I've been working on. As you can see, I've finished up a bit of panels. It's kind of rough, you know, and I'm gonna hit render, and now we're in my render view. As you can see, we have some panels. I don't mind spoiling these because I mean, you've basically seen the scene in the previews that I've posted before. As you can see, this isn't an actual, I haven't actually fully drawn this out here. As you can see, it's just, if you go in the 3D view, it's just a plane. It's just a literal 3D plane with an image textured onto it. And how I went about doing this is each panel is actually its own separate scene. Obviously, the backgrounds and objects in the scene have been reused here multiple times, and I'll show you how I went about doing that. This is kind of what I used the long canvas template for, just setting up my comic, getting it ready for uploading. So I'm not really drawing anything in here besides the thumbnailing. So I just do all my planning in here, and once my planning is done, all my thumbnailing and everything, I set up the scene that I plan to do here. So I'm gonna head into one of the scenes that I've already set up, and I want to show you guys exactly how I've done that, and I've numbered them so I know exactly which panel is which. As you can see here, this is the first scene. So this is what the first scene looks like. It's now actually the textures has come in and everything. Obviously the way I'm doing it, you're gonna need a quite a beefy PC. No, it doesn't have to be quite, you know, hefty. It just has to do the job. You can obviously optimize Blender for your PC and your recommended settings. So as you can see, it's just kind of a tiled room. There's nothing much in here because this is the only thing I showed so far. In this scene, it's the first scene, and you don't really see beyond this because it cuts to another scene, so you don't really see beyond this, if you know what I mean. Like, you don't really get to see the entire room. So all I need to do is just set up 4 walls just to get the perfect lighting requirements for the room. And as you can see, I've set up these chambers for the clones. Obviously they're going to be in the comic, and as you can see, it's just silhouettes. It's not really drawn. I like to keep things simple. I don't really have to draw all these details and everything. They are in a cube basically. This is just a cube, just one simple cube. I've added all the texture details in texturing over here. Let me show you over here. As you can see over here, this is my texture material. Now this is a whole other thing. I'm not going to get into the texture nodes in Blender for you guys. I might do that in the tutorial videos series that I plan on doing in the future, but it's pretty basic. I mean, if you know Blender, this is a pretty basic setup right here, but I'll go more in detail in the future how exactly these nodes work and how you can use them. You can see it has some sort of depth to it, and it has actually some form of, you know, can you see that, some glossiness, and you know, it looks like actual tiles. And that's the awesome power of Blender. Like, just texturing wise, like I can create all this detail with a simple, you know, node shader, and that's what I really love. Look at this over here. Look at this chambers. You think I drew all this? You actually think I drew all this. No, 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 no. You silly, 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 silly little child. This is a texture that I've actually just grabbed from the internet and I kind of customized it to fit the cartoon shader style. And then I've kind of just thrown it on here. You know, and also it's tileable. So what tileable means is I can kind of just change how much iterations of this texture I want. And you know, so if I maybe want it to be a bit more wider, you know, I can just type in a value 2 by 2, you know, and I get more of a wider feel. If I want it to be a bit more closer, I can, you know, increase it a bit, you know. And that's the cool thing about Blender. It makes things simpler for me, so I don't really have to go in and draw all this detail or copy and paste the detail and whatever. No, I just change a few values and you know, there it is. Ta-da! I don't really have to do any shading. I don't have to do any, you know, all types of things. I have my light source within the scene. You know, here's the light source over here, and it's affecting all the elements there in the background. It's affecting the line art, and it's affecting all the chambers and everything, you know. And it also still gives you somewhat of a 2D feel to it. It does its job without taking you out of the scene. In fact, it actually, in a way, kind of immerses you even more into the scene, especially if this type of style is consistent within your webcomic. And that's kind of how I do my scenes. You know, this is kind of what I'm gonna do for my scene setup. And if you look here, you can see the grease pencil outlines. The grease pencil outlines also project from the camera, so it might look funky in the 3D view, but by the camera, it kind of projects the lines onto the mesh, so it doesn't look crazy. Look at, I mean, look here off camera. Look at that mess over there. Within the camera, you know, it looks fine. So what I do is, once I have my scene set up, I render this image out. Let me show you guys. I think it's actually good to actually display this, to actually practically show you what I'm talking about. I'm gonna add the sphere here in the scene so I can demonstrate to you guys what I'm talking about when I go back into the long form canvas scene. Okay, so I have a folder with all the panels that I've already, you know, rendered in here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna type this as test, panel test. So I'm gonna head back here into my long form panel scene. And as you can see here, what I can do is I head to the shader settings. Now this is gonna look a bit crazy to you guys, and you guys are gonna be like, what are you doing? But don't worry, it's pretty fine. What I do is I head to my shader settings, and wherever I saved that image, you know, I can just drop that image. This is a test image. Let me just drop it in here, and I'm gonna set it up to this node over here. Bam. And you see that? See how it updated? It's just updated. Okay, this is my previous image over here, and I'm gonna add, bam, there's the update. Look at that. Can you see how the textures have changed? I'm heading back here. Bam, bam, and bam, and bam. You see what I'm saying? So you see where I'm going with this. Like, you can literally do your corrections, and all you can do is just plug it in here, and it's done. You've done your corrections, and you can still keep your old images. You can save it somewhere in a different folder, but you can always just pop it back in if you don't like the feel of it. If you actually just want to redo some sort of thing, certain forms of line art, I can do that and then just save it in here, and it's done. Everything's already set up, everything's in place, you know. So that just makes my life a lot easier. So I'm gonna pop you guys into another scene, which is this scene where he breaks through the tank over here. So here's he actually breaking through the tank. As you can see, I just reused some assets and I set up a simple scene here in the back. And I actually want to show you the materials over here that I used. So how Blender's materials work is actually pretty interesting. But let's say I wanted to change a material. I can always do that, you know. Maybe I wanted his skin red. When it comes to shading and texturing and color changes, you can always just go in and do that. When I go more into the simplicity of actually setting up and drawing in Blender. Also be aware, this is one of the things that I've realized, because it's an animating software, it keyframes your image. Now obviously if you move around in the timeline, you'll see your drawing just disappears. Okay, don't be alarmed, don't panic, don't go nuts. Okay, if you ever see that happening, it's just because you moved off your keyframe. Okay, that's all that happened. Don't panic, it's just one of those things. Okay, you can always just scroll through your timeline and find your image again, but make sure you always draw on your first keyframe. Okay, it's just gonna be one frame, so draw on one. Okay, don't draw anywhere else. Don't go around and do this and draw here and then go over here and draw here and then go over here and draw here, because then it's in the keyframe it and it's gonna do glitchy shit. Okay, don't do that. Don't do that. No, do that. Okay, so that just briefly shows you my process exactly. I didn't really go in depth because I feel like I want to do a video series on this, actually going into these elements in Blender piece by piece. I feel it's going to be more easier for you guys to actually digest, and you know, rather than me just going through a video and just shotgunning you with a bunch of points, you know, actually sitting down, going through each point, you know, one by one, you know, in a comprehensive series on my YouTube channel, and you know, actually going through that with you guys, or maybe doing a live stream with you guys and actually showing you the steps I take within my Blender process and how I do things. I feel like that will be even better. Let me know what you guys think of this Blender process. Is it something that you might look into? Is it something that you would be interested in? Now also, I want you to bear in mind the Blender process can also work in conjunction with other apps and other drawing stuff, you know, because you know what I've seen with other drawing software or other software people use for the webcomics is that it's quite laggy, and that's the thing that I'm trying to prevent people going through, because it really damages your flow of work, really damages your process, and that's the kind of thing that I hate when I do webcomics. Is after a few panels it gets very laggy, it gets very hard to even just, you know, draw a line, and it gets really jittery, and you kind of have to hide every panel and stuff like that, you know. And doing this process, I realized that, you know, there's no lag. I get things done, everything moves quite smoothly with separating scenes and linking them into each other. The way Blender works as well, like with opening Blender, it just takes a few seconds. I don't really have to, you know, wait 12 hours for the thing to export, or you know, those type of small things that really annoy me. So that's kind of just me trying to get past that, as well as, you know, I've been working in Blender like at least 7 years now within my animation career. I know the program back to front, you know, I know everything about it. And now with this new grease pencil tool, it's really cool to use it for my actual webcomics and actually now get to just work in Blender. I used to use Photoshop at first, but now Photoshop is, you know, it's just laggy, you know. That's one of the things that I didn't like about it, even though the brushes are cool and there's cool things you can do in it. It just really pissed me off, and especially introducing 3D elements within Photoshop is just a nightmare. And me specifically, I specialize in 3D modeling and 3D animation, as well as animation as a whole, but mostly specifically 3D animation, and there's a lot of experience I've gained from that. What I kind of figured out is how to bring that, you know, speciality of working within 3D programs, working within, you know, Blender into my webcomics, because I know I'm good at Blender, I know I'm good at 3D modeling, I know I'm good at animation, and now to bring that within my webcomics, you know, and display, you know, all the things I've learned over these years within my webcomic, and kind of merging the two worlds together and kind of making my own unique process with my own unique style and webcomic, you know, it's very interesting, and it's been a really awesome journey, and I'm glad you guys are supporting me and following me on this journey as well. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to actually showing you guys more that you can do with this and all the other elements and all the other crazy things you can do with this process. This is kind of just scratching the surface. I just wanted to show you guys like the behind the scenes of how I exactly get the theory behind my planning for the panels and exactly how things are going to be put together. And you guys let me know what you think of this style or this process of working with your webcomics using Blender with the 3D elements, combining them with the 2D elements, you know, like I've done here, and you know, using textures and all types of nodes and everything to kind of just make things easier for myself. But will it benefit you as well? Do you see the potential for this working process? And let me know your thoughts down in the comment section down below. So I also wanted to update you guys on my YouTube channel. Until I'm done with my current webcomic, I will be hopping back down to one video a week. So just to update you guys on the channel moving forward, I will be kind of cutting it down to one video a week, because I feel like if I keep going at this rate, because I'm doing side jobs on the side, my current animation job, and I'm doing this webcomic, and I'm doing many other things in the background to make things easy on myself, I think I'm going to just produce one video a week, as well as it will also, I don't really want to just cut down the quality and then just produce a bunch of shitty videos for you guys. Now I actually want to put in the work and the effort for you guys. So I think I will release it every Saturday. I think that will be a good day because everybody's off, everybody's chilling at home. And in the future, I will be hopping into more topics on animation itself. So you guys definitely want to stay tuned for that if you want to learn more about the animation industry, as well as how to animate and how to get into animation. I definitely will do a series on that as well. If you guys want to see more awesome videos on webcomic content, don't forget to check out these videos over here. And that's it for this video, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye now.